Bird strikes are immensely dangerous for aircrafts because of the high speeds at which they usually fly. If a bird hits the cockpit and enters an engine or cabin, the results can be devastating, ranging from emergency landings to aborted flights. Let's explore what can happen. All right, let's do this. Bird strikes jet. One possibility after a hard hit is the struggle to regain control of the jet. This happened with a jet that took off from Joint Base San Antonio in Texas. An Air Force flight instructor and a student were flying at 400 miles per hour just above Randolph Air Force Base when they were struck by a bird. Both of the pilots knew they had milliseconds to control the aircraft from further damage. Luckily, the two of them managed to land the jet, but it was neither safe nor sound. The picture shows the horrible damage done to the jet, but all was well if the pilots were well. Nothing remained of the bird, though, which was investigated to be a black vulture that lost its life in the hit. Another such hit on a U.S. military plane was filmed in Midway International Airport when the routine flight turned around and landed after a flock of birds collided with the engines of the plane. You guys can clearly see the spark in one of the engines. The pilot, however, managed to land the plane safely in this incident, but not before sustaining heavy damage on the plane fuselage. This one is from China, where two pilots took off for a routine flight when one of the jets got hit by the birds. The engine caught fire and the pilot had to land. As soon as the aircraft touched the ground, firefighters came to put out the fire. Picture shows the jet on fire, but the pilot was evacuated just in time, and the fire was also put out so no major damage was reported. But this isn't always the case. Hit and crash. If a bird hits a plane straight in the engine or cockpit or cabin, the situation becomes grim. Now, we know that bird strikes can happen at any time in the flight, but chances are relatively high at lower altitudes during takeoff and landing. In 2019, an Indian Air Force Jaguar jet was taking off in Ambala when it struck a flock of birds. The pilot had to jettison 2 external fuel tanks and 2 bombs before he managed to recover the aircraft from the jolt and land safely. The blasts you see in this clip are from bombs exploding on the ground below. Don't worry, there was no population there. That was a good stroke of luck and quick thinking of the pilot that saved the day. But for the pilot of the T-45C Goshawk, the results were deadly. The heads-up display of his aircraft showed a direct collision with a flock of birds in Kingsville, Texas. The pilot tried to retrieve control of his jet, but the machine lost its way and descended straight to the ground and crashed at Naval Air Station Joint Reserve Base, Fort Worth. Striking the plane body is one thing, but crashing through the windshield of a plane is an entirely different ballgame. This happened in 2013, when a Cessna 210 was taking off from LL2 Brookridge in Downers Grove when a Canadian Goose came crashing into the windshield of the aircraft. For a second, the pilots were taken aback, but they immediately landed back and made a post-crash video as well. The broken windshield, the splashes of birds' blood and scattered feathers were telling us a horrible story. But those pilots were some lucky fellas, as their flight didn't turn into a tragedy. The repair, however, would be heavy on their pockets. Commercial planes and bird strikes. Bird strikes are sudden, there's no escaping them, and commercial flight jet pilots know this, and they're all prepared to handle the situation. They often abort flights in case of an on-ground hit, take off if they feel there's not much damage, or land right away if they think there's a chance of damage or abruption in routine flight. Even with all this training, timing, and preparation, it doesn't help every time. In 2014, a Boeing 757 was taking off from Manchester Ringway International Airport when it was hit by a bird. Flames burst from the engine as soon as the bird hit it, but it was too late to abort the flight. The pilot immediately contacted the radio tower and declared Mayday within minutes. Firefighters were ready, ambulances were at high alert, but the man managed to land the aircraft even with the right engine failure. In 2019, a close call was recorded at the same airport when an EasyJet A320 ended up being yards from a massive flock of birds. What would have happened if the plane had collided with so many birds at a time? We have answers to this question in this video, so stay tuned. An Airbus A300-BF600F also suffered a bird strike on a takeoff at Amsterdam Schiphol Airport, heading for the DHL cargo hub of Leipzig-Halle Airport. The pilot immediately contacted the radio tower, but continued the plane's journey towards Leipzig, where it landed safely on the ground. But those flames would surely have scared everyone who saw them. In another instance of bird strikes, an Airbus A330-300 suffered major damage to the nose and wing in May of 2021. It happened near the Dutch coast above the North Sea, near an altitude of approximately 5,000 feet. Only the flight crew was aboard, and the aircraft landed safely. But still, just look at the impact of the hit. It's insane how a bird can do this much damage to planes. Now, take a look at this mess of blood and feathers. This happened to an Egypt Air Boeing 737-800 when it was landing at Heathrow Airport with 70 passengers on board. What would happen if a flock of seagulls and a Boeing 747 battled each other in the air? Though the plane landed safely, its whole body was covered with what was left of those flock of seagulls. Yeah, that's an 80s reference. In another one-of-a-kind bird strike, a Ryanair Boeing 737-800 was hit by a flock of seagulls flying from the ground. More than 20 birds were killed or ingested by the mighty plane before it landed safely on the ground. Miraculously, nothing happened to both the engines. Okay, so in this next one, I felt for the poor bird. It was a wood pigeon who took its last breath after it hit the winglet of an Embraer 175 from Lion Landing. These birds are usually very good at evading planes, but this one had his fate written. It was strange to see a mighty Emirates 777 waiting for the body to be moved from the runway. It's amazing how dangerous small birds are. The plane was waiting because of its powerful engines that can suck up any foreign object debris from the ground because of its immensely powerful turbines, strong enough to make mini tornadoes. Sucking a bird and consequently getting damaged is no big deal for huge aircrafts. Look, here's a bird ingestion caught on camera. And therefore, bird strike engine tests are compulsory to conduct during the manufacturing of aircrafts. They're tested rigorously for all conditions of foreign objects ingestion. And now, let us move to our subscriber pick of the day. This image was sent to us by a subscriber just like you. Similarly, if you ever come across an image and want to know more about it, just send it over to us. Who knows, we might even feature it in a future video. Bird strikes have cost hundreds of millions of dollars for the Air Force, or the taxpayer. And this is not me speaking. The data released by the Air Force says it all. According to the reports, more than 105,000 bird strikes have taken the lives of 27 people since 1995 and cost the taxpayer and the Air Force more than $817 million with a loss of 13 aircrafts in total. These are huge numbers to begin with, and considering the precious life losses of our serving officers, the dangers of bird strikes couldn't be ignored. According to Josh Aycock, spokesman for the Air Force Safety Center at Kirtland Air Force Base in New Mexico, pictures and videos of these incidents show us the effects of such disastrous strikes, and our subscriber pick is one of those pictures. An F-16 that landed safely after a bird strike. But if bird strikes are so dangerous for the aircraft and engines, then what steps have been taken to prevent such incidents? And why don't engineers use a mesh or grate on the engines to stop the birds from entering in the first place? Would you like to know more about that? Tell us in the comment section below, and we'll make another video for you guys on this topic. Till then, you can check our other videos out. Please like, subscribe, and tick that little bell for more amazing content. Until next time, adios.